November 35 to 2:43 a.m. The monitor cracked. It wasn't a loud sound, just a shift in static, a hiccup in the white noise. But to Amy Lanes, it was louder than a scream. She was lying in bed, eyes wide, blanket clutched tight under her chin, and had been for hours. She hadn't slept well in 2 years. Not since the police knocked on the door that July afternoon. Not since they uttered those words she couldn't forget. "We're doing everything we can." 2 years since Emily vanished. 2 years since their daughter, just 16 months old, disappeared from her crib during a storm. No signs of forced entry, no ransom note, no witnesses, no body. Just gone, vanished. The crib had remained in place. It was Amy's one rule. When social workers and family begged her to move on, she clung to it. The nursery stayed untouched. The rocking chair, the shelves filled with plush animals, the duck-patterned wallpaper, and the baby monitor. It had been off for months, but 2 nights ago, without meaning to, she turned it on. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe it was loneliness. Maybe it was the dream. Amy sat up in bed now, staring across the room. The monitor's little green light flickered beside her on the nightstand, static hissing gently from its speaker. Then it changed again, a sound faint, but there she leaned closer. ... mum, not ... a lullaby ... low, warbled, familiar. Amy's throat dried. It was the same lullaby she used to hum, over and over, rocking Emily at 3 a.m. Was she going mad? She reached for the monitor, hands trembling, and increased the volume. "Sleep now, Mommy's here." Amy recoiled, her blood iced. That was her voice, but she wasn't speaking. November 13th, 2025 to 2:47 a.m. Mamie stumbled out of bed, bare feet hitting the cold floor like thunderclaps in the silence. Her heart drummed against her ribs, wild and irrational. The monitor was still hissing behind her, and the lullaby, her lullaby, was still playing, warped and distant, like it had been dragged through a swamp. She should have unplugged it, thrown it across the room, called someone. Instead, she walked down the hall, past framed pictures she hadn't taken down, past the untouched stroller, to the door that had stayed shut for 2 years, Emily's nursery. Amy stopped in front of it. Her hand hovered near the knob. She hadn't been in this room since the police finished their search. Not once. The door creaked open with a sound like dry bones shifting. Inside, everything was just as she'd left it, preserved in a terrible, fragile kind of peace. The room smelt faintly of baby powder and something else, something stale. The walls were still covered in tiny ducks. The mobile above the crib hung motionless, one wing of the fabric owl twisted backward, as though it had spun too fast and jammed. The monitor speaker on the other end of the crib, the one in the nursery, was glowing red. Amy's eyes drifted to the crib itself. It was empty, just the soft duck-patterned sheets, slightly indented, like something had been there. She backed away slowly. Suddenly, the lullaby cut out. The speaker crackled, and a small voice whispered through the static. "Cold, Mommy." Amy froze. Emily. Cold, ... so cold. Amy dropped to her knees. "Where are you?" Silence, then a scraping sound, metallic and sharp, from behind her. She spun around. The closet door was slowly swinging open. November 13th, 2025 to 2:51 a.m. Amy stared at the half-open closet door, her breath trapped in her throat like a held scream. The door creaked wider, inch by inch, though no wind stirred, no draft passed, just that persistent scratching sound, metal on wood, like nails clawing behind it. She got up, trembling, feet like lead blocks, as she stepped toward it. The air changed. It felt heavier, thicker, like something in the room didn't want her to move. But she couldn't stop, couldn't not know. With one shaky hand, she pushed the closet door all the way open. Empty, old baby clothes, A few unopened diapers. Boxes of things meant for a life that never finished happening. And then, just as she was about to step back, sharp sound. Not through the monitor. Not in her head. From inside the closet, Amy dropped to her knees and peered into the darkness. Beneath the clothes, something was wedged far back in the corner. A baby monitor. Another one. Not the set she and Derek used. This was older yellowed plastic, frayed cord. A model she'd never seen before. She reached for it. Don't. The voice came from right behind her. Amy turned fast, heart ready to tear through her ribs. No one there, but the nursery light above flickered and, for the briefest second, she saw a small shadow move across the wall. Childlike, barefoot, arms slightly raised, and then it was gone. Amy clutched the strange baby monitor to her chest and scrambled backward. Later that morning, Derek found her asleep on the floor of the nursery, the strange monitor still in her lap. He gently shook her awake. "Amy, what the hell?" She sat up fast. "She spoke to me." His eyes softened, then darkened. "Amy, I'm not crazy." She said she was cold. And this, she held up the second monitor. This was in the closet. Derek took it, inspecting it. "Where did this come from? You tell me. You're the one who cleaned that room after she stopped herself." They both did after. That night, after the cops said Emily had simply vanished. No signs of forced entry. No struggle. No evidence. 1 minute she was asleep in her crib. The next, gone. Derek turned the old monitor over. There was a name etched into the plastic on the back in shaky penmanship, P. Holloway. Emily number 1 *** Emily number 1. He muttered aloud. Amy looked up, pale. "This wasn't made for our Emily," she whispered. November 14th, 2025, 11:03 a.m. Derek sat hunched over the kitchen table, the strange monitor between them, now cleaned and resting atop a yellowed towel. Amy scrolled through online archives of missing persons reports while sipping cold coffee. Neither had slept much. "Emily number 1, Derek said, voice low. "What the hell does that even mean?" Amy turned her laptop to face him. "Look at this." On the screen was an old news clipping from the Herald Tribune, dated 1994. "Infant Emily Holloway disappears from home. No signs of entry or foul play." A photo was attached. Black and white, faded, an old house. A woman clutching a baby blanket. Another. "Emily." Amy whispered. "She vanished from this same town." Derek stared at the photo. Holloway. That's the same last name carved on the monitor. They dug deeper. There were others. Emily number 22003, Emily number 32011. All infants, all girls, all named Emily. All disappeared in the middle of the night. All cases still unsolved. "Jesus Christ," Derek said, standing up. "It's like they were taken for a reason. Like something was collecting them." Amy looked at the monitor again. What if this thing isn't just picking up signals? What if it's a door? That night, 3:11 a.m., the house was too quiet. The new monitor Amy found was off. Unplugged, stuffed in a drawer. But the current baby monitor, the one they still use to keep vigil over the empty nursery, came alive again. "Mommy, it's not cold here anymore. I made a friend." Amy bolted upright. "A friend?" She leaned closer. "Emily, who's with you?" There was silence, then static, and then "She's not Emily." Amy's heart stopped. A new voice, older. A new voice, older, dry, female. And then the static bloomed again, this time rising to a shrill mechanical screech, like thousands of insect legs on metal, mixed with something breathing. She ran into the nursery. Empty. The closet stood wide open again. She crept forward, hands trembling. Inside, nothing but shadows. But something had changed. The walls, the paint looked melted, like it had been burned, warped by heat or acid. Symbols she didn't remember painting when she did the nursery were faintly visible beneath the wallpaper, etched or branded into the drywall and at the base of the crib. Half hidden by the dust ruffle was a small porcelain doll's head, its mouth sewn shut with black string. The next morning, Derek didn't want to believe any of it. He thought Amy was unraveling, but the monitor played the voices back on its own, even when disconnected from power. He heard them. He heard her, Emily's voice, singing a lullaby. He remembered singing to her the night she vanished, and he heard the other voice too. The one that said, "You named her Emily. You brought her to us. You all do." November 15th, 2025, to 1:07 a.m. Amy awoke to the sound of knocking, not at the front door, not even from outside. It was coming from beneath the floorboards, a soft, rhythmic knock knock knock, like a child's fist tapping wood from the inside. It came in patterns. A pause. Then again. Knock, dash, knock, dash, knock, dot. Derek had fallen asleep on the couch with the monitor still sitting on the coffee table between them. The screen now glowed bright white, like it was backlit by something far brighter than electricity. And then, do you want to see where she is? The voice was no longer Emily's. It was the woman's, hissing, invasive. "You can't get her back unless you look. Look inside. Open the gate." Amy's lips parted. Her body moved before her thoughts could form. She reached out, trembling, toward the monitor, and the screen split open. Literally. A jagged black crack tore through the glowing surface, like paper ripping, and something behind it pulsed red, like an exposed artery. The plastic melted into itself, dripping to the floor in a hiss of smoke. Inside wasn't machinery. It was teeth. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Tiny, too perfect teeth, packed in dense rows, clicking silently like gears. At the very center, a pupil, watching her. Amy screamed, pulling her hand back, but it was too late. She saw something. A room, not hers. A crib in the center, black walls, floating ash, and a child. Not a baby, a girl, maybe 6 years old, pale, filthy, her hair hanging over her face. And beside her, a copy of herself, another child with the same face, same dress, same dead eyes, just wrong. The skin too smooth, the mouth too wide, and the fingers ending in tiny teeth instead of nails. Then, the voice again. "You named her Emily. So did the others. She belongs to the name now." Later that morning, Derek took a crowbar to the nursery. If something was buried in their home, he was going to find it. He ripped up the floorboards. Underneath, more carvings. Deep, ancient. A spiral of names etched in concentric circles around a central sigil. Emily, written over and over in dozens of different handwritings. Some in blood, some scorched. In the center was a single phrase, in some forgotten language, but they found a rough translation online from a folklore site. To name is to bind. To name is to feed. Derek said nothing, just walked out of the house, drove to the records office. What he found there almost stopped his heart. In the past 100 years, more than 50 children born in the county were named Emily, all under 6 years old, all missing, no trace, no resolution. But the records didn't stop there. In 1922, a man named Harold Greaves tried to pass a county ordinance banning the use of the name Emily in birth certificates. The motion was denied. Harold's infant daughter vanished 1 week later. He killed himself 3 days after that. On his body was a letter that read, "She came through the gate of teeth. She wore my daughter's skin. I buried what was left in the field." Back at the house, midnight, they heard the footsteps again. Small, barefoot, coming from inside the nursery. But they had torn the floor up, locked the doors. The monitor was now smashed to pieces in a trash bag outside, and yet, the closet door was open. Inside sat Emily's old stuffed rabbit, clean and new again, sitting perfectly upright. Amy reached for it. Underneath it, a single baby tooth, still wet, and the sound of a lullaby humming behind her. November 16th, 2025 to 3:13 a.m. The humming didn't stop. Amy froze, her hand hovering above the tiny tooth resting beneath the stuffed rabbit. The sound swirled around her, not from behind, not from the closet. It was inside her head, as if someone was rocking her brain to sleep. Sleep now, Mama. Say my name, Mama. She backed away from the closet and slammed the door shut, locking it with the nursery key she hadn't used since the funeral. Derek was still out driving aimlessly, lost in obsession, chasing paper trails of dead children and whispering graves. Amy was alone, but she didn't feel alone. She felt watched, from inside, down the hallway. The baby monitor shattered, trashed, unplugged, began to make static sounds again. It wasn't plugged into anything. It wasn't whole, yet the screen flickered, and a face slowly pressed against it from the inside. A child's face, blurred, smiling. Say it, Mommy. Just say it again. Name me, and I'll stay this time. No more crying, no more graves. Amy screamed and backed away, but her feet felt heavy, like they were sinking into the carpet. She ran into the bathroom, slammed the door, locked it. The mirror was fogged. She hadn't run the shower. Across the glass, written in the condensation, were the words, "You named her, you fed it." Then, behind her, in the bathtub, a figure slowly sat up, soaking wet, hair plastered to her face, eyes too wide, pupils pinpricks of black glass. A little girl in a pale yellow nightgown, identical to what Emily had been buried in. But it wasn't Emily. Its fingers ended in tiny rows of baby teeth. It opened its mouth, and there was another face inside, a second face, a third jaw, each one smaller, each one whispering, "Name her again. You'll never bury me deep enough. You made me with your voice." 2 days later, Derek returned home to find the nursery door ajar. The entire house was silent. Amy was nowhere, but the baby monitor, now miraculously whole, was glowing. On the screen was a crib. Inside it, a newborn, a real, living baby, wrapped in blankets, sleeping soundly. And below the image, in grainy gray letters, Emily, 0 hours, 2 minutes and 14 seconds, SL Lee, P. Derek fell to his knees, unable to breathe. He wept, laughing and trembling, until the screen blinked. "Say her name. She'll stay this time." He almost said it. The name was in his throat, thick and heavy, like something crawling up from his stomach. But before he could speak, the screen flickered violently. Blood began to leak from the sides of the monitor, and then the monitor shut itself off. Behind Derek, the closet door creaked open by itself. Inside was Amy's phone. On it was a single audio recording. He played it. The file was short, just a few seconds long. Amy's voice, gasping, "It's not our daughter. It never was. Don't name her again." Then static, then silence. Epilogue: 6 months later, the house stands empty. But sometimes, when new families tour the property, a faint sound is heard echoing through the old vents. A baby's laughter, then "Say my name." And if anyone does, they never leave. One does, they never leave.